Live. Okay, we are live. Hello, good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, depending where you are. We are here again with Kwame Gonza. Today, we are going to touch on the US presidential debate between President Joe Biden and the former President Donald Trump. And of course, we are here to give it the African perspective, as we always do. What happened in the wallet? We are part of the wallet. It also matters to us. Welcome, Kwame.
Thank you so much, Mahlet, and greetings to everyone who's watching us today.
Okay, so there's a lot of questions starting from the background and what have been raised in this debate. What can Africa pick from what they said? But first, Kwame has something to say for in a way that will introduce the whole topic of today. So with that, I invite Kwame to take the.
Okay, thank you, Mahlet. One may ask why are Africans commenting on American elections and the 2024 United States presidential debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump specifically. For us to comment on this, we have to understand that Donald Trump is looked at as one of the top contenders, of course, together with President Joe Biden in what they call democracy in their system. Now, to ask the question is to deny the effect of the power of the United States. If you asked us why we are commenting on these elections, this effect of the United States on us as a people, it could be bad or good, but mostly bad if you are black across the world, except the people we call clever blacks or the so-called sellouts. Once Mwalimu Julius Nyerere said that the global south, and especially Africa, should be voting in the in the United States elections. Why? Because the United States has so much effect. It makes laws for us as countries in the global south. I did not realize this until I studied enough the work of Kwame Nkrumah, that I came to understand and appreciate the destructive and disruptive power and activities of this country called the United States in our lives. Now, it is therefore on this basis that as Africans, I feel that we have the right to comment on the happenings in the United States, not only because we have relatives in that country who are suffering and are daily oppressed, and of course have been nicknamed African Americans, but we know they are Africans, but also because that oppression has far-reaching consequences for us as Africans, as it also touches us directly on the continent. So this is the reason why we are going to discuss Donald Trump and Biden and the first US presidential debate of 2024 from an African perspective. Back to you, Mahlet.
Thank you, Kwame. So with that, I think we have answered to ourselves and also to our audience why this is important for us, right? So now we're going to go ahead and we move on to our questions. But first, Kwame, as an African geopolitical analyst, can you, before we break down to the whole thing that what they have raised, Can you rate the whole thing of this debate and in terms of also the candidates? Let's start with that.
Okay. Thank you, Mahlet. The debate happened yesterday night. Um, I was watching it. I watched it live, definitely, and uh, and of course, many people have called it underwhelming, and that is what I also uh, suspected, and that is what I also saw because of the performance of the two candidates, but especially the very bad performance of President Joe Biden, and the fact that there was an attempt to control President Trump in what he has to say through the rules that were put up. But nevertheless, the debate also showed the divisions, the huge cracks, which have been mentioned by many people, including people like Ray Dalio, who has said that there is a huge crack between the Democrats and the Republicans right now, and that crack was symbolized by the arrival of the candidates. That even though President Joe Biden was the first to come on stage at the CNN Center, where the debate was held. When President Trump came to the stage, he never shook, President Biden's hand. So this shows the huge division within the country itself, the United States. And this is something that as Africans, we have to note as we copy this system, because majority of Africans, we are very quick to copy and try to imitate the West and imitate the white man, and which has not produced results for us for the last 60 years. President Trump, of course, pushed back as usual. He's a rough, person who always pushes back. But also the performance of President Biden was, as I said, underwhelming. And this is not because he doesn't know what to say, or he did not have the information, but it's because of the wear and tear of aging, which is showing and has been showing ever since he became a president. He became the president of the United States. We have seen him falling down on numerous cases. We have seen him stutter with words. We have seen him on the international stage, even people helping him to walk, as if he's confused. So the wear and tear on his mental capabilities was visible even during this debate. And like I said, it was not because he did not know what to say, but because time is not very much on his side. And you could see this, that anyone who was watching, definitely uh, it was easy to have sympathy for him as he was trying to express himself, but sometimes the words could not come out well, and even his voice is not as clear as it should be for someone who's contending for the top, presidency, or the top office of the United States of America. On the other hand, you could see that Trump was somehow sympathetic to him, that he did not attack him very much, from what I saw. But you could see that Trump was sharp, was very sharp. Both of them, they said some things which are untrue, including Biden, especially when it comes to foreign policy, when it comes to the war, the Russia-Ukraine war, when it comes to the war in Gaza. Both of them said some things which were not true. So I saw that when it was published today in certain articles, they were quick to mention that Trump is the one who was saying untrue things, but both of them were saying a lot of things which were untrue. President Trump, of course, was quick to exaggerate. He was exaggerating things like immigration on the issue when they were talking about the issue of immigration at the border, where they were saying that people are coming in. Trump was saying that 20 million people have poured into the United States, which is an exaggeration, and he was saying, as usual, that these countries, these people, where they are coming from, they are emptying asylums They are emptying prisons. These people are coming from prisons. They are coming from mental asylums. These people are dangerous. They are rapists. So all this was definitely exaggeration because the country itself, United States, was built on immigration. So you can see that on all sides you
But I
have.
was coming to that, Kwame, for maybe you could go ahead and finish it. But in terms of whether their debate has tackled what's happening both internally and on the international level, and of course on the international level, whether they're provoking something, starting war somewhere. So did they tackle what's happening internally? One of it is being immigration. The other things, the chaos they have created worldwide. Yeah, and I think you can go.
Yes, definitely. So the immigration, like I said, they touched it. Um, and Biden, of course, as we know, the Democrats, we spoke about them a few days ago here. And also we saw that historically, people like Malcolm X have spoken about the Democrats in the United States, that they are hypocrites. They do some of the worst things, but because they don't say what they are doing, they do it in the dark. They do things in the dark. Unlike the Republicans, they come out and tell you what they're going to do. Some people even say that Obama actually did more deportations than Trump.
Mhm.
And so it is possible that uh, Biden is also doing a lot of deportations and taking children away from their parents, and taking parents away from their children and sending them back, mostly to South America, where these majority of these immigrants come from. So that is possible. But of course, as we said, Trump was in the exaggeration mode of things, and both of them were exaggerating. Biden too was exaggerating the death during the COVID period, and of course, they exaggerated their achievements. Trump was talking about the stock market in the United States that by the time he left, they had the best economy, and therefore, Biden is the one who has destroyed. They have the worst economy right now. Everyone is laughing at the United States. So that's what Trump was talking about. So seriously, I have to say that the American people have to be brainwashed, but these guys, they were not really addressing the issues which are affecting the American people, and what they're going to do specifically, but rather they were recycling. I remember a debate where I think one of the contenders, Kennedy, I think he's called Robert Kennedy, who was also debating, I think, in one of the debates. He said that if people want more of the same, then they should vote President Biden and President Trump. But if they want something different, then they should vote him. Okay. So this is what I saw, that these people are just talking to each other. They are really not talking about the problems affecting the American people. And an example, of course, which would give is one of the questions which was asked about the Black Americans and the unemployment and the mass incarceration and all that it was not answered very well. So there was deflection
Mhm.
of the real issues which are affecting the American people and the country.
Now, with that, then, are you there, Kwame?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
here.
Okay, good. Then. Now, of course, this is as we said in the beginning, we look at things from the African perspective, and now let's start with that. Now,
Yes, yes.
when it comes
So let me add one thing which I think
of
I've realized what that they said. So
okay.
when you look at Trump, for example, as you know, the Republicans. This I just want to elaborate a little bit more. The Republicans always say that everyone should take care of themselves, so they don't believe in the government spending money on the people on social services, because they believe that is the one. They are the ones who they call the far right, group of politicians, and therefore they believe in everyone taking care of themselves. The government should not take care of anyone. So they don't believe in spending on social services and stuff like that. So this is the same group which we have of the Democratic Alliance in South Africa, because that's the same belief which they have. On the other hand, of course, the Biden group believes that they should spend a lot. When it comes to taxi cuts, these people believe that the Trump group, which is the Republicans, believe that they should reduce the taxes of the rich. That if they reduce the taxes of the rich, then the rich will build more factories and create more jobs and create jobs for everyone. So this is a contest of ideas. And the Democrats, to some extent, do not believe in that kind of thinking, as we saw that Biden's policy since he came to power, which policy, of course, has been led by or has been crafted by his national security advisor, who's called Jake Sullivan, was when they came to power, he gave a speech in which he criticized the so-called trickle-down economics policy, or the so-called market economy, market-led economy, whereby we say that the market will take care of everything. Just reduce the taxes of the rich, because the rich are the ones who have money. Then the rich will create more jobs. This is an assumption. It's like sort of a religious assumption, even though it is not scientific. It may happen in one time, in one case it may happen, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to happen. That when you reduce the taxes of the rich, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to create jobs. So they have made it look like everything which they believe that it is gospel. All right, it is like a gospel, some sort of gospel which has been written from a holy book, that it must happen. So this is the danger. Now when you go to the Democrats, for them, they believe that you should spend on the people. But of late, the Democrats have become, of course, for us who view it on the international stage, it's like the Democrats have become the new Republicans, and the Republicans have moved towards fascism. If you look at it and what they are doing, uh, one, when you listen to President Trump during his term, of course, he would come out and say anything, whether it is abusing, whether it's saying African countries are shitholes, he would say anything. Of course, and this is the United States policy. And we don't blame him for saying that. But when we see what, and of course, he's a representative of white supremacy. He just tells you directly that we want this country to be for the white people. And of course, this is what fascism is about. When you look at people like Mussolini, and then you look at Hitler, they believe that their countries are for white people. And that is what you see in people like Giorgia Meloni of Italy. They believe that these countries are for whites, the blacks should stay in their countries. Now, on the other hand, you have the Republicans, you have the Democrats, who don't say these things. They say that we are for everyone. We are for everyone, or everyone should be included in the system. But the things they do in the dark, they are horrible. They are much, much horrible. And that's the danger of this system. So for us who are on the international stage, we don't see really much difference between these two groups, even though internally they contend that they are different. And even in some cases, Trump causes them communists, calls them that they are socialists. That we want to bring socialism in the United States, or they are communists and stuff like that. He calls the Democrats that they are communists. So, but for us outside, looking at their policies on the international stage, they are destructive policies on the international stage. We really don't see any difference between these two groups. And there's a national date, of course. Biden said that Trump has, during his period, he escalated and he borrowed about $8 trillion. And then Trump himself, I think it was the moderators who said that Biden borrowed about $4 trillion, has borrowed about $4 trillion, which I think is much more than that. And then, of course, they clashed on the issue of abortion, which they said, of course, that Trump was exaggerating when he said that Biden and his group, when they talk about giving women rights to do abortion, they give rights even to abort 9-month old babies who are about to come out, who are about to be born. So which Biden pushed back. So there was this back and forth exaggeration, which we saw, on abortion, different issues on immigration, on abortion, on national debt, on cuts, tax cuts for the rich, spending on the people, on social services for the people. Another one doesn't want to spend, wants it to be done in another way by giving taxes to the rich, giving more money to the rich, and of course this is what we saw also George Bush do during his presidency. That when there was problems in the economy, banks collapsing, they had to bail out to the rich, who caused even much more problems, the speculators. Yeah, so this is what we see that happened between these two people when they were trying to talk about what they're going to do as presidents in the United States. But in the whole, you can see that I think Trump did better than Biden, but they all did pump out a lot of lies, during the debate.
Thank you, Kwame. Really, a very good elaboration for those who want just a gist of it. Now, that is as far as the whole debate was concerned. Now, coming to African Americans or our people there, was there anything for them, or should they take because these are obviously white presidents. In fact, there was so far only one black president in the US, and even which he is blamed that he did more worse than others. In any case, did they discuss anything that's concerning the African Americans, like unemployment, inequality? Or if there is anything from what they have discussed, which you have said already, for African Americans to take it and interpret it, so they know what's coming from who. You're muted.
Yeah, so there's actually two issues which were mentioned, two questions which were asked, the two candidates, and that is the issue of course, income inequality in the United States in regards to the African Americans, and poverty and unemployment. And then the other issue is the the issue of incarceration, mass incarceration, because African Americans, or the Africans in the United States, are arrested at a rate of 5 to 1 compared to whites. So they are easily arrested even over small things, and not because they are criminal, but because of racism, which is structure and is still existent in the United States. So if the police finds somebody who's black, even if there's something is small that needs to be discussed, something he would just discuss easily with a white person, he would just take and arrest the black person. And even sometimes we have seen them just killing the person, straight away. So these questions were raised, and of course, uh, you know, uh, Biden bragged about how he has given incentives for black families to be able to acquire homes, and then how he has helped here and there to improve their lives. The unemployment, they always quote the unemployment figures, that the unemployment figures have gone down. And Trump, of course, countered this and said that during his period, the unemployment figures for the African Americans had, were the lowest. They are lower than, Biden's period. But the issue of incarceration, no one spoke about it. They just left it like that. And I believe that this was not addressed simply because they understand that this is a structural issue, that for you to stop the unnecessary arresting of these Africans in the United States by this structural and unfair system which they have, whether it is the justice system, whether it is the enforcement system, you have to overhaul the whole system. So that was not addressed. So to me, it showed that neither Trump or Biden are really interested in the affairs and the issues which are affecting the African American community in the United States.
Sad, you know, it's just knowing that no better future for the African Americans, that it will continue or it might even get worse. Now, finally, I want you, you know, to look at or to share your view. What can we learn in general for us from an African point of view of this neoliberal democratic system? Of course, looking at the history of the US itself, and also how should our leaders, can I say, they're not really leaders, but yeah, our the presidents, these heads of states, continuing to adjust themselves with whatever system is the US is having. When it get worse, it just get worse. So I like the term that you used. I think last time we said it on these platforms, elect and regret. We just keep on picking their system, but what we do is finally to regret. And the very good example is what's happening now in Kenya. So did it serve us? What is the way forward for Africa?
Yeah, I think that the big lesson here is that we have to stop looking at this system as they do it all. That this system is they do it all, and we have to push back. You know, we have to push back. The African narrative has to be put at the center. This neoliberal system is not the system, which I want to repeat again. I've said this numerous times, that this system is not what these people used to develop. They did not use this system to develop. The development process of Europe and the United States was much more complicated than this, and it includes slavery and colonialism. And this is what gave them the capital on which they are standing today. This is what gave them the wealth on which they are standing, you know, today. Of course, they innovated and did industrialization and all these things, but without the capital and free labor which was generated, you know, the capital which was generated from the free labor that they got from Africa, they would not have developed like how they are today. So I think that history needs to be examined, history needs to be studied, and it needs to be studied especially by the Africans to understand that this system is not what it is. What these people are saying is not what really this system is. There's much more to what these people are saying. There's much more to what brought them to where they are today. So I think that needs to be really pushed into the brains of our people to really understand. Because you look at people like President Museveni in Uganda, when he's talking about the forces of demand and supply and free enterprise as the solution to everything and production. And of course, he gives examples of Europe, how Europe developed and this and that. You see that he never mentions the fact that these people use the free labor. You know, the oligarchs during that period, the aristocrats during that period, the capitalists during that period who helped to develop countries like France, they used the free labor. They never used paid labor like what we are experiencing today, that you have to use paid labor. All right. So this is one thing that is not mentioned when they are talking about privatization or liberalization of economies. They do not tell you that you in Africa, you don't have enough rich people to carry out liberalization. And therefore, if you want to develop rapidly, use the state, because you do not have enough rich people to carry out the process of liberalization and privatization. This is not mentioned. They do not mention to you that if you carry out a liberalization or privatization of your assets and property, which belong to the public, we are the ones who are going to buy them, and we are going to continue to exploit you. So instead of giving us the right advice and saying that, okay, if you are using the state to develop, try and manage the assets well. That is the only thing you should do, but do not sell the assets. And we have seen this work in China. So this system has a lot of questions. And I speak about this because the United States itself, like I mentioned, Biden's policies, when Jake Sullivan, who's the national security advisor to the White House, uh, Biden came to power, this man, who's the architect of Biden's industrial policy and economic policy, criticized the free market economics. And they say that we cannot leave things to the market. We cannot leave the whole economy to the market. And this is what, if I want people to go out and look for that speech, which he said that if we leave the development of the economy technology to the market, it does not have the capacity to develop, to continue to innovate, and because the state has to intervene. And therefore, this is where the policies like the CHIPS Act, the CHIPS and Science Act, in which the Biden administration has given out more than $64 billion, to the companies, the CHIPS companies, and giving them subsidies, and to attract other companies like Samsung and TSMC to come and manufacture chips in the United States. Subsidies. So this is a government intervention. So when you talk about these government policies in the renewable energy, interventions in the renewable energy sector and electric car, sector, all this is state intervention. So, but unfortunately, our people don't want to understand this. They want to look at the United States as the perfect thing, and whatever it says, we should follow it. And we are seeing this in these countries. We are seeing this in Ghana. We are seeing this in Kenya, what people are resisting against. Because Ruto is trying to implement things which people, they don't work. They don't work even in their own countries. But they're telling you that you should implement it and put it on your people. So during COVID, they gave out money to everyone in the United States, all the people. And when you are talking about socialism, this is socialism. This is the definition of socialism. But they gave out money. The bank printed, the central bank printed money, and they gave out checks, free checks to people who were in their houses. But when we, the poor countries, do it, they say that, why are you practicing socialism? And the IMF comes and says, don't do that. Don't give out money to people. So this is what they normally do. So looking at the context which they had, Biden and Trump, I think it tells us that there's so much to be desired about this system. We don't have to follow this system. We don't have to copy this system. And as Africans, we need to look inside and look at our own systems, create new systems. And it's not necessarily even creating new systems, but we have kingdoms who have existed. We have records that we have had governance systems, and places like Ethiopia, those systems are already there. We don't have to copy what the white man is saying that we should copy, because this is a trap for our own, enslavement and exploitation going forward. So I think that these are great lessons which we can learn from this system and what they are trying to do.
Thank you, Kwame. But just last, if you can add what should be done from our heads of state side or from Africa. That's as far as.
From the point of heads of state, I think that we can talk and talk, but it will be very difficult for the heads of state. What is needed, like what is happening in Kenya, is a very strong movement that is going to, transform the continent, that is going to shake up the continent, the whole continent. And
Big
that
time,
movement,
big time, yeah.
yes, so that movement has to be deliberately built. Because look, when President Ruto won his elections, or whatever it is, other people say he cheated, or they cheated for him, the Americans cheated for him. When he succeeded in becoming the president, he went around to try to preach how it is very good to be in a system in which he is, which brought him to power, and therefore that is the democratic system. So he took that to Senegal, he took that to West Africa, he took that to Zambia, he took that, whether it was Mozambique, to talk, to try to spread this falsehood that this is the best thing that has ever happened, and which is not true. We saw that the president in Niger came through the same system, but he was not doing anything. When he was removed, the people who removed him, who are military people, they are doing much better than what he was doing. They took back the sovereignty of the country. Ruto himself had sold the sovereignty of the country to the United States. So all these things, I think they have to be weighed and looked at. But the current group of African leaders, I think there has to be really a movement, a new awakening that puts them in check. Other than that, I really don't see a very easy way out of the situation we are in on the continent. It has to be a really strong checking from the people. Like right now, I think Dr. Arikana Chiombor is the one who came out and said that the Ghanaian youth are also restless now because they have seen what happened in Kenya. So this has put a lot of fear in the heart of the government in Ghana, that they don't know what is going to happen next. But even that, the Ghanaian youth have already announced that they are going to demonstrate in September, starting, I think, 21st up to 23rd. They are going to demonstrate against bad governance. So you can see that this has put a lot of fear in the hearts. And of course, independence, that's how it was. If you remember independence, people, when they were resisting the colonization and rising up against colonization, when Ghana got its independence, other people saw it that this is possible, and they started rebelling and fighting vigorously against whether it's the British, whether it is the Portuguese. So there's that fear now that is happening, and of course this is what needs to happen. People have to come up. You just need 1 million people. You don't need a lot of people. You just need 1 million people out of the country of Nigeria, like that. It's a country of 200 million people. You just need 1 million people to be mobilized and be able to change all these bad policies and bad, slavery, slavery policies which have been imposed on the people from the IMF and International Monetary Fund and the World Bank.
Thank you, Kwame. I was just kind of smiling, thinking, when you said now the Ghanaian youth are planning to do this demonstration against bad governance in September. But that would give the government, to prepare what it needs to prepare. Earlier here at Connect Africa, we reported about these new COVID cases in Senegal, and Ghana might be next because the whole thing seems very orchestrated, dramatic thing. What's going on? We just had a week before this global vaccine forum in France, and then now you have the virus just popped up. Anyway, but what makes me to smile is maybe the government will come and lock the whole people in the name of COVID, so you don't do it. Yeah, they learn their trick, from the world. Okay, so I think that was it so far, what we wanted to bring you here. You wanted to reflect on that, or shall we close it? Yeah.
No, I think it is okay. It is
Yeah,
okay.
I
Nothing much.
can see no question here. I think it was Alicia McQueen who said like that, the forget the reparation issue. Nobody's going to address it. That's what she's saying. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the reparation issue is still going on. The Caribbean countries, the CARICOM countries, have been very strong on that, and they have got support from the government in Ghana. I think this very year there was a conference on reparations in Ghana, which was hosted by the president of Ghana, Nanado, and there was talk of having the reparation issues, sent to the African Union. I think it has been sent a couple of times, and it's still there to get the support of all the African countries. Because look, the issue of reparations cannot happen if the African Union does not, support. If African countries don't support and they put their pressure, then it will not happen. Because at least it should be able to go through the United Nations, and the African countries have to put a lot of pressure, to make sure that they give support to the Caribbean countries and the CARICOM countries for this to happen. Because these colonizers, they don't listen to anything apart from force. So this is what I see when it comes to the issue of reparations. But there was a conference on reparations in Ghana this very year at the beginning of this year.
Okay, so let me just address this quickly. Khalid Townsil uh, commented, "This is some okay. Da-da-dum. I'm gonna beep. I'll say, why are you guys talking about American politics? I thought this channel was strictly created to talk about African politics and liberation, and I guess not. Well, I think you are too early, too soon to judge it. Maybe you have just started to listen to it, but we always say what's happening in the world definitely impacts Africa. So, and most of our discussion, in fact, was on how Africa and Africa, including African Americans in the US, will be affected, and just based on this presidential debate and from what they have raised. At Khalid, so somebody critical thinker said the US policy are hard to escape. We would be foolish to ignore US influence. The retaliation against the Houthis is an example. Exactly. I mean, it definitely. So if you maybe you just came in and started, because it starts from the general, but if you listen through, you will know exactly why we discussed this. I think without further ado, we should go and close it. So we will see you again tomorrow with Dangote, the topic. It's going to be very exciting. And thank you, Kwame, always, for shedding light on issues that matters to us. Thank you all for rooting, for trusting us, for commenting, engaging with us. That's what keeps us going. So please do so. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel, share the video with others, give it a like. That will help us. And also, you can support us through our PayPal account. I shared it here. Go ahead and subscribe to the Africa Imagined Africa Reimagined channel as well. It's here. It's also live streamed through it. This program. And that was it. Thank you. Bye bye.